Today, from the Global Lane, we'll take you to the country where Christianity is spreading faster than anywhere in the world. George Thomas tells us why it's happening now. Mission complete. Donald Trump's big Asia trip has ended. What did he accomplish? Reporter Lucille Talusan joins us from Manila. On the home front, it's Thanksgiving time in America. Do your children know about the Pilgrims and America's godly heritage? Fewer do. And more millennials say they'd prefer living in a socialist or communist country. We'll set it straight and explain why. And I'll drive it home on Thanksgiving. It's about more than take-a-knee football and Black Friday sales. What are you thankful for? And it's all right here, right now, from the Global Lane. This may come as a surprise to you. Christianity is growing faster in Iran than any other country in the world. Tens of thousands in the overwhelmingly Muslim country are abandoning that faith. Recently, a group of Iranian Christians invited our George Thomas to join them and document their baptism.
On a recent Friday, 600 miles east of Tehran, not too far from the Afghanistan-Turkmenistan border, 20 Iranians prepared for a secret journey out of their country. For their safety, we've concealed their identities and changed their names.
I've been waiting for this moment for nearly 9 years.
The mission took months to prepare. It was fraught with danger.
This was my wish before I die.
Afarin helped arrange their travel.
The moment the Iranian government discovers someone has changed their religion, they will try everything to stop the person from sharing their new faith with others.
Most of these new Christians paid a price for abandoning Islam.
The government scares Christians, imprisons them, fires them from their jobs, kicks them out of school, and many other tactics, all in an effort to stop them from evangelizing.
Afarin knew what they were about to experience could land them in trouble. CBN News met them shortly after they left Iran. Due to the sensitive nature of this report, CBN News has agreed not to reveal our location nor the names of the individuals associated with the story. And this is why they left Iran for a few days. For the first time, all 20 followed Christ in baptism.
Inside Iran, if the government found out that you were baptized, you would be automatic imprisonment. And so rather than do that inside their country, they came outside for a special event like this.
One by one, the young and old got dunked. Men, women, and children, all of whom renounced Muhammad and professed their faith in Jesus Christ, in a swimming pool rented for the occasion. 16-year-old Sarah accepted Christ 4 years ago.
I became a Christian after seeing Jesus in a dream. As I was getting baptized this morning, I felt the Holy Spirit come upon me in a new way.
Entire families got baptized.
It feels very good. I'm very happy. My whole family is happy.
Edward Hovsepian says this is nothing short of a miracle. His brother, Haik Hovsepian, an Assemblies of God pastor, was murdered in Iran for his faith in 1994. He says no matter how hard the government tries, it hasn't been able to stop the spread of Christianity.
They are very scared of the Bible, and they realize many Iranians are attracted to Christianity. The government persecutes them, hoping to undo the effect, but the result is the opposite as more come to faith.
We had never seen such an unprecedented growth of an underground church anywhere else before.
Mike Ansari, an Iranian by birth, is director of operations at Mohabbat TV.
شبکه محبت از آغاز تولد خود
In 2006, it became the first 24-hour Farsi Christian channel to beam gospel programs into Iran. The majority baptized this weekend came to faith by watching Mohabbat TV.
Some of these believers waited for many, many years to be baptized. They want to tell the world that they belong to Jesus. They want to tell the world that what was before is dead and now they're a new creation.
Ansari says many Iranians, especially the young, feel disillusioned with Islam, and record numbers are turning to this channel to learn more about Christianity.
Roughly about 16 million Iranians within the last 12 months have viewed one or more of our programs on satellite TV and also on their mobile devices, that roughly translates to about 20% of Iran's population. And that is an overwhelming number.
Mohabbat is now one of 4 satellite channels broadcasting continuous Christian programming into Iran. Ansari says these exclusive images should encourage Christians that God is moving on the hearts of Iranians.
There's a lot of good news that is coming out of Iran, and we need to focus on that and celebrate that. We're hoping that the results that are being shared with the church in the West would encourage the body of Christ in the Western world, that God is very much alive among Muslims and he's doing a great job.
George Thomas joins us in the studio now with more. George, this is amazing.
Yeah, many tens of thousands of Iranians are leaving Islam. And why are they leaving Islam? And what are they converting to? Many of them are leaving Islam and converting to Christianity. And why is that? Because they're fed up, Gary. I mean, they are, since we have to all remember, some of us are students. You are a student of American history. You remember the events of 1991 when the Islamic Revolution took place.
79.
79. Sorry, 79. And hundreds of these folks stormed our U.S. embassy in downtown Tehran, and it. The aspirations was that the 79 revolution would create the sort of Islamic revolution that would sweep across not just Iran, but the entire world. Well, guess what? All these years later, it's a dud. I mean, Islam has not had the sort of revival, and the authoritarian, the ayatollahs, as you call them, the Muslim clerics in Iran have imposed this very harsh form and view of Islam that many Iranians are saying, I don't want it. And as
they don't want any part of it, especially the younger people.
Absolutely not. And as they see the access, when they have access to technology, either through, whether it's satellite television, text messages, they're able to get, there are folks, ministries that are, sending direct text messages to their mobile devices. They're able to see satellite television, other Christian programs on satellite television, and they have access to the world outside of Islam, outside of Iran. And they see a world where it's modern, people are free, they're free to dress the way they dress, they are free to listen to the kind of music, watch movies, and they want to be a part of the 21st century, the global society, and are saying no to this strict form of Islam. Many ministries, including Mohabbat, are beginning to focus their resources and their time on social media.
As long as the firewalls do not prevent.
And Iranians, Persians are very, very, they're creative and find ways to get around that firewall. VPN is huge.
Very intelligent people.
Absolutely.
And educated. How do they get the discipleship they need inside Iran?
Yeah, so Mohabbat TV, for example, is just one of a number of satellite televisions, 24-hour broadcasts beaming the gospel into Iran. What they have is these shows that basically show you how to have a house church. Because in Iran, unlike in the United States, you can't just go to your neighborhood church and walk into the church and start worshiping and listening to a pastor. That will land you in prison.
Armenian language only.
Exactly.
In Iran.
That's right. And so a lot of these Iranians, when they do accept Jesus Christ by watching a television show, watching a satellite program, these various broadcasts will teach Iranians how to hold a house church. Remember, when I met these folks at this baptism, they all came from the same town, and they were meeting each other at this undisclosed location for the very first time in their lives.
And that's unsafe for them to meet in Iran.
It is, absolutely, yes. Of course. And so just imagine you live in the same community, yet you do not know that you guys are all Christians. Because of the security, they don't, because of the safety, they don't share with each other that I'm a believer. They don't dare go out of their homes and openly evangelize. It's all in secret. And so it makes being a believer in these sort of countries like North Korea, like China, not so much China, North Korea and in Iran, it's difficult to share your faith openly. And so these small house churches become sort of the foundation for their faith.
Well, George, we appreciate the fact that you went and you met with them,
sure.
And
Tremendous
thank you for
honor.
that. Thank you for that report. It was amazing.
Thank you.
And God bless you, and we look forward to more reports.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mission accomplished. President Trump wrapped up his 12-day Asia trip, saying he had negotiated more than $1 trillion in trade deals for the United States. Because he pulled the United States out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, some Asian leaders thought the president would disengage from the Asia-Pacific region, but not so. Mr. Trump made many overtures to U.S. allies and competitors alike, including in the Philippines, the last stop of his trip. CBN Asia reporter Lucille Talusan has more from Manila.
We've had a great relationship. This has been very successful.
Trump made the remark in a bilateral meeting with the Philippine president affirming the close ties between the U.S. and the Philippines. They did not talk about alleged human rights violations in Duterte's war on drugs. They did discuss South China Sea, where the Philippines has become a central player in resisting China's increasingly assertive territorial claims. They also talked about combating terrorism in the region. Trump also met with Indian Prime Minister Modi. Modi suggested the U.S.-India relationship is deepening. Trump has embraced the world's largest democracy as a natural ally in efforts to counter China's growing influence in the Indo-China region.
Contrary to fears that President Trump's America First vision may result in the U.S. disengagement from the Asia-Pacific region, President Trump's participation in the APEC and ASEAN summits has definitely strengthened cooperation with visited countries and will advance America's involvement in Asia.
Asia-Pacific leaders agreed to address unfair trade practices and urgently called for the removal of what President Trump referred to as market-distorting subsidies. The change in the trade language shows the influence of Trump's America First policy. Trump also volunteered to be mediator for countries in the territorial dispute in the South China Sea.
Obviously, this is a major departure from U.S. foreign policy previously, which said we were neutral and that we did not have a stake or a claim in the South China Sea other than continuing freedom of navigation for all international players. This is a critical sea lanes for trade, and it really is important. And President Trump's weighing in to the actual disputes between China and the other claimants is an interesting development, and we'll watch that space carefully.
Other matters of grave concern discussed by world leaders here are the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and ending the violence that is causing the mass migration of Rohingya refugees. Myanmar State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi said that the credibility of ASEAN is on the line if it does not solve the Rohingya problem. With President Trump at the ASEAN conference, Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Manila.
Lucille joins us now from Manila with more. Lucille, just how successful was the trip for the president? What are the Asian leaders saying?
Hi, Gary. Well, as you know, President Trump coming to the nations in Asia and meeting the leaders that are very important in terms of trade, in terms of security, then I say that it was very successful. And he really made an impact when he made his keynote message during the APEC summit. And, he denounced the unfair trade practices. And we have seen how the APEC leaders have acted on this. And they have reviewed, they're addressing the unfair trade practices in the region.
So it was America's first, and I know the president boasted about trade, but did he make progress, Lucille, on the North Korea issue?
Well, North Korea issue was a top concern among the nations, especially for Japan and South Korea and the other countries. And he got more cooperation from countries like Russia and China. And also he has strengthened the bond between countries like Japan and South Korea and also the Philippines. And President Trump assured them of the U.S. commitment to defend them in case of, North Korea being more aggressive. And
we were a little surprised about his commitment to the South China Sea issue. That surprised everyone. Well, Lucille Talusan, thank you for joining us from Manila. Good reporting. Soon, Americans will celebrate Thanksgiving, a time for reflecting on God's blessings with a grateful heart. The United States has a rich, godly heritage dating back to the early European settlers. In 1620, the Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth, Massachusetts. The following fall, they shared a meal with members of the Wampanoag tribe, and they thanked God for a bountiful harvest. The Pilgrims came to North America for religious freedom, and their Plymouth colony government was based on biblical principles. Today, American society is more secular, and fewer school children are being taught about the Judeo-Christian roots of their nation. Paul Strand brings us that story.
Most kids in most public schools are no longer being taught what a rich, godly heritage this nation has. God and prayer have been thrown out of their schools, and with it the knowledge that early settlers made covenant with God, and this allied the country with Him. Much of this early heritage started with the Pilgrims right here in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Give you an idea where
On a trip down the East Coast, this group of pastors and students from Spokane, Washington, came to reclaim that lost education for themselves and their children.
Getting all of this information, revelation, and the heart of God into the next generation.
Most of them, if they've been through public school, and even a lot in Christian schools, they don't know their history as far as how our nation was founded.
Like the Pilgrims didn't just come here to escape religious persecution, but to set up a new type of government. In an age of absolute monarchs who ruled like God, the Pilgrims believed the real God made all humans equal. So any leader should be elected by the community and should be servants of the people, not lords over them.
Male, female, doesn't matter. We're all created in the image of God, and therefore no one is above, no one is below.
But they have another king, a heavenly king, King Jesus, and that's who they follow.
Pilgrim reenactor Leo Martin led this group around Plymouth.
What you're not learning is that we are a Christian nation founded on Christian principles, and we tell that story. We don't tell it only because I'm a Christian. We tell it because it's a fact.
Some today are taught Pilgrims were stern control freaks, clamping their religion down on everyone. But they knew God as the God of liberty, who wanted men free in Christ. They understood the only way to stay free was by self-governing, each person following the moral code and virtues laid out in the Bible.
That actually liberates and brings incredible freedom.
Without that moral and virtuous living, they'd need a powerful government to control them.
We can only have that liberty if we have that self-government.
Because if we don't rule ourselves, someone's going to rule over you.
In these and all our actions.
That's why almost all early education was about teaching the eternal truths and guidance in the Bible.
If we're built on the Bible, which I would believe is objective truth, then it's truth that doesn't change. It's truth that doesn't shift. It's the solid rock.
When they sailed from England, they knew well they could die from the New World's harsh winters or Indian arrows, but they still came. And half their number died the first winter.
They literally put everything on the line for what they believed and were willing to lose their life, half of them, for future generations. They believed it so much.
Few kids today are taught that food was scarce, so scarce 14 of the 18 Pilgrim mothers died because they kept giving their meager rations to their children.
They gave their lives for the sake of another generation so that we could live in the world we live in today.
Pastor Trevor's oldest daughter was radically changed on a previous trip where she learned all this and told her parents,
"It's up to me, it's up to our generation to carry the baton, to champion truth, to live and to be a voice."
I have people say to me all the time, I'm just one person. I listen to you. What can I do? One person can't do anything. 51 people started our country. One person can do something.
The Pilgrims weren't colorless and dour, as some teach, because they believed the joy of the Lord was their strength, and they were to be thankful no matter their circumstances. They're famous for Thanksgiving Day, but Martin has a problem identifying that as a specific day.
Which one do I pick? The Pilgrims thank God for everything.
But little's taught of what made them so thankful, of the miracles and moments where God's hand guided and saved. They needed plowed fields their first year because they had no plows. Right where the Pilgrims landed were fields plowed by the Patuxet tribe that had been wiped out in a plague.
What's being taught right now is that they stole the land, that they took advantage of the natives.
The Indians did not want the land. They would not come back on it because of the plague.
Squanto was a friend of nearby Indian chief Massasoit and was declared a special gift from God by the Pilgrims, who testified they couldn't have survived without him. He'd learned English in Europe.